Cluster farming based on agricultural technology helps to ensure food security, substitute imports, and increase revenue by enabling crops agreeable with the ecology to grow in larger quantity and highest quality. The Prime Minister has also paid a visit to the Abba Jafar Palace, which is under renovation. Ambassador Redwan Hussein says Egypt should encourage Ethiopia to finish building the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam quickly because it would serve Egypt as a lifeline and a water bank in drought seasons, taking their own request and account. We told Sudan that we are ready to exchange data regularly to meet their concerns for the security of their smaller dams, but their position now serves the interests of a third party than that of the Sudanese people, he added. He said Sudan and Egypt should not hold on to their stance because Ethiopians cannot wait indefinitely, expecting the green light to utilize their resources. He said Ethiopia provided more opportunities for Egypt and Sudan to benefit from the dam, notwithstanding their failure to appreciate it. He said Ethiopia must now use its resources, causing no significant harm to downstream states. The dam is a beacon of regional cooperation and integration than an issue of bickering, he added. The state minister made the remarks during an interview he has had with Al Arabiya, an Arabic language satellite television channel based in Dubai. Regarding the recent political situation in Sudan, Ambassador Redwan said all parties must realize that Sudan comes first and the interest of the Sudanese people stands above all appeals. If parties act calmly and rationally by putting the interests of the Sudanese people above everything else, he said they would find a way to overcome their differences. Asked if there is any Ethiopian initiative to resolve the Sudanese crisis, the ambassador said the Sudanese people have the wisdom to solve their problems without external intervention. He noted that military power would not give a lasting solution to the border conflict between Ethiopia and Sudan, necessitating genuine proposals on the table as Ethiopia did. Speaking on aid access to Tigray, he said the government of Ethiopia did everything it could and cooperated with humanitarian operators to ensure unfettered access into the region. However, the rebels chose to obstruct the delivery of humanitarian aid to advance their political agenda, he added. On foreign hands meddling in the conflict in Ethiopia, he said, the government knows that many have interests to weaken Ethiopia. He said many of these interventions are manifested through attempts to downplay and discourage even the positive deeds of the Ethiopian government.
It is the right time to reform and revitalize the United Nations system to reflect current global realities and ensure that it is a more representative and equitable body. Our Esluini Consensus of 2005, we should collectively insist that Africa's reasonable request for no less than 2 permanent seats and 5 non-permanent seats in the UN Security Council be adopted.
Ethiopia has worked together with peace-loving African brothers and sisters to bring stability in areas where terrorists cause damage. This came at the briefing given to military attachés of foreign missions residing in Addis Ababa on the belligerent act of the TPLF and measures taken. Shagao Yamato has this report.
Ambassador Fasashal, Director General of Neighboring and IGAD Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, and Brigadier General Bulti Taddesa from the Ministry of Defense briefed military attaches of foreign missions residing in Addis Ababa on the belligerent acts of the TPLF and measures taken. Brigadier General Bulti reminded that Ethiopia has played a great role for the liberation of African countries from terrorist groups. He also took the occasion to highlight the country's great contribution to the fight against white domination since the 1960s in peacekeeping mission. Ethiopia has worked together with peace-loving African brothers and sisters to bring stability in areas where terrorists cause damage, he added.
Our country, Ethiopia, has a long-standing history especially struggle for survival for long period of time. Ethiopia is also one of a symbol for Pan-Africanism. Especially Ethiopia played a key role in supporting African brothers and sisters, not only now, even during freedom fighters for different African countries in the brothers. We support them rightly, like our brother in Zimbabwe, even in South Africa, even Mr. Mandela, who was trained here in Ethiopia, as a friendship for African brothers.
The military attaches were also updated that the terrorist TPLF group is still waging war in Afar region. However, some blame that the Ethiopian government has neglected the people of Tigray in addressing foreign aid, though the reality is different.
Still, this terrorist group assists the rest of the people, the youth, again open another wage fight in Afar region, in Abala corridor, to close even the corridor, not to support, not to give the aid to these people.
The issues they are raising, one is humanitarian access to Tigray. And it is TPLF that is refusing access to its own people, food aid. And right now, the government is forced to airlift food because they have closed the road to Abala.
Fissaha noted that the government of Ethiopia has designed a national dialogue for peaceful negotiation with opposition political parties. Although the government is preparing for the national dialogue to ensure peace, culprits of the terrorist PLF will be held accountable for the crimes they have committed, he noted.
The government of Ethiopia now is launching a national dialogue that would include the political parties operating there, but they have to be accountable. How come it is only the TPLF operating in Tigray? There are Tigrayans who are here. If they set foot to Mekelle, they will be killed overnight. And they have killed so many of allies of the government in Tigray. And this kind of assassination is not acceptable. That they should settle the matter with the public. And this is what is happening.
The terrorist PLF group with its fresh attacks on Avala in Afar region has killed many innocent civilians and forced many others to flee their homes, it was pointed out.
Scholars say that Africa must press ahead with its demand for a fair representation at the UN Security Council. The representation, according to the scholars, helps the continent to prioritize critical agendas and reflect a more realistic stance at the global body. Kazahun Channe has more on that.
The United Nations Security Council still remains 5 permanent and 10 rotating seats. However, for a rising generation of African leaders, the idea of serving a 2-year term and rotating over does not square with their demand for fair and equal opportunities. Talking to BBC English, Zakaras Minota said the permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council helps Africa to restore inclusive growth and sustainable development.
Being membership in the US Council will have multiple effects, both in terms of diplomacy, politics, the economic development, the social development, tourism and trade. As you know, whenever something is decided upon you without your presence, costs you much. Okay? And this was the reality that we have been in history as a nation and as a country. So every economic activity, every major political issues, diplomatic issues, resource-related issues, technological aspects, tourism aspects are determined by the US Council, basically.
Over the past 6 decades, some Western states have controlled or parts of the world indirectly by institutionalizing the United Nations Security Council and abide to advance their national interest. According to the scholars, African leaders need to work aggressively to widen the inclusiveness of the United Nations Security Council. The African Union's request for permanent seats in the United Nations Security Council is critical to secure continental advantage in various fields.
The Security Council is one of the most powerful organs of the UN, where decisions are made regarding peace and security in the world. And as you know, peace and security are very key for prosperity and for sustainable development. When there is peace and security, there will be economic growth, and there will be, social growth, and there will be stability. And that is why it's very important when decisions are being made at the UN Council, all the continents needs to be represented. And I think it's important, based on the negotiations and the discussions that are going on here.
The composition of the United Nations Security Council is not historic and fails to reflect the current world at all. This is the very notion that needs to guide the reform process of the global body, say the scholars.
They say, Kauleza mama, which simply means, hurry mama, please don't let them get you.
Africa's voice on the world stage needs to be heard loud and clear. I would like to propose to this august body the establishment of an African Union Continental Media House. This media house could be organized to provide authoritative news and information on our continent, fight disinformation, promote our collective agenda, and offer opportunities for Pan-African voice to be heard.
Welcome back again. Ethiopians always remember their heroine, Empress Taitu Bitul, the formidable wife of Emperor Menelik II, for her remarkable role in politics and society. Taitu's suggestions and tactics, coupled with her bravery, have helped Ethiopians root out the Italians 126 years back in the mountains of Adwa up north. It was on February 11, 1918, that the Empress, alias known as Hanza Ethiopia, drew her last breath. In the following piece, our staff reporter Daniel Kasahun looks into her life and contributions to politics. Take a look.
Empress Taitu Bitul hails from Wollo, being born into a Christian and Muslim aristocratic family. Her name, Taitu, means sunshine, and she certainly acted like one, always providing both warmth and security to Ethiopians of her time. Taitu was a loyal and respectful wife to her husband, Menelik II. According to royal historians, she was co-equal with the King Menelik, who always consulted her prior to making important decisions. Empress Taitu was the one who opposed the Italian machinations in the Treaty of Ujali. Had it not been for the discovery, the treaty would have made Ethiopia an Italian protectorate. Armed with Taitu's wise advice and seeing the dangers, King Menelik tore up the treaty and fought the Italians at the Battle of Adwa along with Taitu, who commanded 5,000 infantry and 600 cavalry during the historic battle. She used her exceptional intelligence to strengthen and extend her powers through an adroit blend of patronage, political marriage, and leadership craft. Determined to resist imperialist designs on her country, she increasingly opposed any negotiations that would result in the loss of Ethiopian territory. When diplomacy gave way to war, she rode out at the head of her own army at her husband's side. When Melik's health began to decline around 1906, Taitu began to make decisions on his behalf, angering her rivals in the process. This eventually provoked public agitation against her and forced her into retirement. She founded Addis Ababa, which remains Ethiopia's capital city today. In the final decades of her reign witnessed a period of modernization which gradually opened Ethiopia up to trade and greater technical expertise. History remembers Empress Taitu as the strategic empress. She died on this day, February 11, 1918, having been ousted from the National Palace. She lived out her last years at the Doto Mariam Church overlooking Addis Ababa. Taitu, the conservative politician, died at the age of 66.